Amanda Bobbett here. Today I have the honor and privilege of interviewing Dr. Peggy Parker, biological medicine doctor. And I was introduced to Dr. Parker approximately probably a year after I got my device, and now I've known about her for almost 6 years. And I've learned incredible knowledge from this wonderful woman. So today I get to ask her some few questions, and I'm very excited about it. So Dr. Parker, would you mind tell me exactly how you got introduced to ionized water?
So I had an introduction to ionized water during my biological medicine training, and the doctor who was teaching our classes was really excited about ionized water. He's from Switzerland, and so he recommended a particular machine that is now called a Kai. And I bought that machine, and I was really not impressed.
Really?
And so I just quit using it because my patients didn't like it. It didn't taste very good, and we weren't getting any good results, so I just abandoned the idea. And then a few years later, I got very ill. I was going through a lot of business and personal related kind of things that were all mixed together, so I was under quite a lot of stress, and every day I just kept feeling worse and worse, and it was kind of just general diffuse ickiness, so I couldn't pinpoint what was wrong. I made an appointment with my holistic MD, but he's a busy guy, and so it wasn't for 8 weeks. And so during that time I just kept getting worse and worse until finally one day I figured out what it was. I had a pain under my shoulder blade. I'm like, oh, that's a gallbladder. So I had my daughter take me to the emergency room, and they did a sonogram, and like, that is terrible. You have to come back in the morning and have surgery. And
That's fast.
it was fast, and honestly they should have just kept me overnight, because when they did the surgery the next day and they touched the gallbladder, it exploded because it was gangrenous and left all this terrible diseased tissue everywhere in my abdominal cavity. And I was, needless to say, really ill after that, so I got much worse. And I stayed really a lot worse for a long time. This happened at the end of September, and by Christmas I was still literally crawling around on the floor, and I couldn't be out of bed for more than an hour at the most before I was completely exhausted, and it was terrible. And I just kept getting worse and worse, and a friend of mine kept telling me about this new water ionizer that she had found, and because of my previous experience I just ignored her. She's kind of one of those gadget gurus anyway, that never sticks with anything very long. So, the fact that she was talking to me about it after 3 months was kind of impressive, so I decided that I didn't really have anything to lose, and if it wasn't going to work, I could at least make her leave me alone, right? So because I live in Spokane and the talk was going to be in Seattle, and that's quite a drive, and I wasn't up to driving, I got someone to drive me to Seattle, and there was a lot of language translation going on, and so it took about 3 hours. And during that 3-hour presentation, I drank 4 16-ounce glasses of this ionized water, and every symptom I had disappeared and stayed gone for 2 full days.
Wow.
Now, I had so many questions. My brain was still kind of foggy because I was sick. So many questions that no one could answer for me while I was there. So I went home and just kept thinking about it, and then I figured it out. And so I went back the next week and bought a machine. And it was a lot of money for me in the position that I was in, because I wasn't able to work and I hadn't been able to work, and so I went ahead and did a financing program, and it was the best money I ever spent on anything. And I was so impressed with how much better I was getting every single day that before my machine arrived, I already had a little informal trial study going on in my head. And so I got 6 of my former patients and friends who were all 60 years old, which at the time seemed old, but now I'm past 60, so it seems a lot younger. But we know that once you reach certain thresholds, it takes the body longer to recover. And so I really wanted to put the machine to the test. And so I got these people to come over to my house and get a gallon of water every day and drink it.
Wow. Good
And
study.
after 7 days, I retook I started with baseline tests, and after 7 days, I took more tests, and then after 2 weeks, I took more tests, and the results were so astronomical, I couldn't believe it.
Wow.
And I didn't know what they all meant at the moment. Like I couldn't figure out why some of the numbers were changing so dramatically. And it was all about their biological age, which has, when I finally put all the pieces together, well, that's all about oxidation and how old our internal organs really are from the results of oxidation. And the water was reversing that so fast that people were getting a year younger for every day they were drinking the water.
Oh my gosh.
And this was on
Wow.
older technology than is available
Wow.
now.
That is incredible. That is incredible. Very powerful. So what are the three main benefits you would see with these people and their energy, or what did they notice physically?
So the most remarkable results were energy. For them personally, they were all noticing that they felt better, that they felt happier, and then the test results. The test results for me was like, I didn't care if anybody felt anything at that point. I saw the results in black and white. And I knew that continuing this line was they were only going to get, the results were going to get better and better. So some people really, for the first week, didn't notice that much. But by the end of the second week, they were starting to notice a little more. But after 2 or 3 months, they were noticing that aches and pains were gone, all kinds of things. Me personally, energy changes. Because of my illness, almost all my hair had fallen out, and my hair was really regrowing really rapidly. I felt hopeful, like I'm really actually going to get better. All of these things were dramatic. And then I would wake up every once in a while and realize, gosh, I don't have that pain in my foot or my ankle or whatever that I used to have, or I don't have this same feeling, this feeling of angst or whatever that was kind of deep. It's just gone. And I noticed that other people were having those same results, that they would come back and say, wow, I sure didn't expect to see that. I didn't expect that I was going to feel this much better in my spirit, not just physical, but in their whole emotional life. Things were better.
And I know you've done a lot of research on the other machines that are on the marketplace, and can you just describe what you found when you were out there trying to research these other machines out there?
So it's kind of, you keep hoping every time you test a machine, you keep hoping you're going to find something that really, that works, because people send me these things all full of hope that this machine they found that was less expensive, was really going to be great.
Next best thing.
Yeah. And so, I hope for their sake that it's going to be, because they've already spent money on it. And each and every time, it was really disappointing, because the levels of antioxidants that come out of the machine that we can actually measure with a little oxidation reduction potentiometer, those are basically non-existent or very low, or even worse, they're low and then they climb higher. And then it took me a little bit to figure out why that was happening, and it's because they're adding minerals.
Okay.
They're adding calcium to the water to make it more alkaline, because their machines were not able to adjust the pH properly.
Is that why you see 2 filters on those machines?
Yes. And so the adding calcium, as the calcium fully dissolves in the water, the numbers start to rise, but that's not a measurement of antioxidant potential. It's just a measurement of electrical exchanges happening in water. So that was really disappointing. And then as I tested them over time, I found that most of these other machines, even if they were testing good initially, they won't last for more than about a year, maybe 18 months before you start seeing some pretty dramatic things happening that actually are creating more illness in people instead of wellness.
Wow, so it's kind of opposite of what you think. So you really do get what you pay for when you're buying something of that caliber.
Exactly. Really want to. There's so much information on the internet, and it took months and months and months of really just sifting through and calling companies and getting machines to test and cutting filters open and everything from soup to nuts to really find out what was actually happening and how these machines were kind of doing the smoke and mirrors game to achieve the same similar results on pH testing that Enagic was already having on a regular basis.
So you really do believe that the Enagic machine stands out from the competition out there?
After having tested more than 20
different
machines, I would unequivocally say that it is really the only machine that I could ever stand behind. And I am not a distributor, so I'm not saying this to sell machines. I'm telling you this because as a naturopath and a biological medicine doc, it's my goal to help people achieve the highest health that they can, and health on all kinds of levels. And that's been demonstrated in my life and in the lives of countless other people. I have tested people all over the country, and in fact even in other countries, and we have seen the same results over and over and over again.
Wow, powerful. Well, great. Well, thank you for joining me here today, and we'll be back again soon.